The International Relations Department wants the United States, Israel and Iran to be held liable for a 12-day war. And this is, as Pretoria claims, all three countries violated international laws. Now, the department further arguing that there's no justification for the attacks against Iran. Tehran has also been criticized for firing missiles into Qatar.
The UN Charter states very clearly that only the Security Council can give the go-ahead for the use of force. So both Israel and the US breached the UN Charter. And in particular, there's also guardrails against attacking nuclear installations because of the safety issues associated with nuclear fallout. Even uranium that's not weapons grade can still be a danger to all of us. And so you have serious breaches of international law from both Israel and the US in terms of the attacks that took place. So, the intel from both Washington, D.C., from the IAEA indicates that there was no weaponization on the horizon. So the reasons given for the attacks doesn't appear to hold water.
Meanwhile, the warring parties have both declared a truce. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailing the moment as a historic victory for the generations to come. Let's speak now to the Middle East Now chair and former South African ambassador to Iran, Ebrahim Saley, who joins us tonight. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time tonight. Let's start with the ceasefire. Do you believe it's going to hold?
Well, good evening, Collie, and to all your viewers. Yes, I'm hoping and praying that it does. So far it looks fragile, but at least it's alive. Although there's no formal ceasefire that was signed or anything, but there is a ceasefire, and we also heard just a moment ago that the U.S. president is calling for a resumption of the talks between Iran and the U.S. on the nuclear program. So those are positive signs, and we hope that that we can be spared the images of war on our screens every night.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How severely weakened is Iran on the back of these tit-for-tat attacks with Israel, assisted, of course, by U.S. firepower?
Yeah, I find that question very interesting. I mean, it is a tit-for-tat, but we have to actually analyze the tit-for-tat. And in the short time that we have, it's safe to say that the initial tit out of the tat was done by Israel. Israel attacked, which was according to international law. I think it was mentioned earlier. It was an illegal attack on Iran, and for a while it did succeed in achieving, the type of terror you get with shock and awe campaigns like that.
Mm.
But that didn't last that long. It seems as if, after the day was through, there was a response, and the response was quite robust and has been escalating a tit for tat. And frankly speaking, it's difficult to figure out who gets weakened to what extent.
Yeah.
I presume that both parties are weakened. But given that we live under, we are obliged to follow the censorship that exists in Israel at the moment, where they don't want to show what damages Iran has inflicted. The presumption then that normal people usually make is that Iran suffered, bombings by 14,000 kilogram bombs dozens from the Americans and all that. So it's chaos. And in this chaos, it's important to keep a level head and try and figure out what is happening. But the most important thing, of course, is to try and get the hostilities to end. And that is my short take, because reliance on defense systems, I mean, we were told that Israel has Iron Dome and the David Sling and THAAD and all these, but they're not foolproof. So, it's quite, I think it's been reported, and quite accurately so, that many Iranian missiles have been getting through, and hence the damage.
Yeah.
Damage to different infrastructure, from ports and airports and military headquarters and Mossad sites, and so it's chaos. And I think in all that, yeah, it's difficult to assess who is weakened and who is, because it's not a question of who is weakened. It's just we pray that it stops.
Yeah. The word, or should I say the phrase, regime change, was floated very publicly by the US President Donald Trump through his social media platform. How realistic do you think that threat was had Iran continued to fight against Israel, but even extending beyond Israel now, trying to attack US installations in countries such as in Qatar?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think, yes, I did hear this notion about regime change the last time it was tried in Iraq, where there was a regime change operation that was, of course, televised and screened live. We saw what happened. In fact, Iran is, not ignorant of something like regime change. I mean, they have first-hand experience of that. In 1953, the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh was removed by the CIA and British intelligence at that time. And he was then replaced by the Shah. The Shah of Iran had a reputation of being quite an authoritarian, with his very fearsome SAVAK security organization, and that was what I believe led to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. So these things always have unintended consequences, as we found out in Iraq, also in Iran. I think that is a bit of an overstretch, and I hope that people who think that they can do and get away with such things. It's now touted that possibly the late Shah, his son, then assumes his father's old position as Shah of Iran. But when I heard him the last time, I heard him speaking in English. Now, if he speaks to his people in English, I don't know how many of them can speak English. And that shows that it's a charade. It's a charade, and I don't think that it has any traction on the ground in Iran.
Yeah.
You'll get those who are nostalgic, like you always have people who are nostalgic for the past. You'll get that lot who think that the Shah's time was when they could wear miniskirts and drink alcohol and dance, which is, of course, something that doesn't happen in present-day Iran, although it may happen behind closed doors. But yeah, people are nostalgic for those type of superficial things. I think, whoever plans that, we find that there's always a lack of thinking about what follows the day after. So that's my very short take on it. And unless we know, I mean, here, wars are fought and battles are won, but what happens the day after?
Yeah.
And those are the questions that we don't have answers to. We see that often enough in the Middle East, as we see it in Gaza now.
There's a particular statement you make about
Yes.
people wearing short skirts. And in a way, you touch on what the outside world views as very oppressive laws in Iran by the Iranian regime. Do you believe that there is a sizable number of people who would want for there to be a change of leadership?
Yeah, I think that you are quite right. And perhaps it's, I mean, you cannot measure progress based on the length of the skirt. And that is, quite simplistic. I do believe that people need to have their freedoms and especially when it comes to women, that it's become a habit that women are always at the end where somebody's telling them what to wear, and in other places it's prescribed what not to wear, as we have now. So the freedom of to be, that is what is important.
Yeah.
And that is what I think that Iran slowly is edging towards in the recent, in the last year.
All right.
So,
Very quickly, Ambassador, I'm out of time. Iran is one of the newest and weighty members of the BRICS bloc. What has happened this week? Do you think it bears any consequences for the BRICS bloc?
I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding with regard to the BRICS bloc. The BRICS bloc is a group of countries. It's not NATO. It's not a military alliance. And what we, it's for the, I think my last count, there are 10 members that make up the BRICS plus, and Iran is one of them, as is various others. And it is a forum which is essentially an expression for the global South, which gets usually overlooked. So BRICS is a breath of fresh air. It also represents a huge portion of global population, with a collective GDP, global GDP of 43%. It's a very, very interesting blocker. And I don't know why BRICS should be so alarming, because when I listen to commentaries on BRICS, it's seen as a challenge. It's not a challenge, it's an aspiration of the global South towards making their conditions better and taking their destinies in their own hand.
Right.
So that's how I understand it.
Ebrahim Saley, thank you very much for your time. The Middle East Now chairperson and former South African ambassador to Iran.